15th, and I call to order the meeting of the Boca Raton Airport Authority. Ms. Landers, please take it up.
Mr. Tucker?
Here.
Mr. Noble?
Here.
Ms. Bud?
Here.
Mr. Vogel?
Here.
Mr. Colvin?
Here.
Mr. Now?
Here.
Mr. Powell?
Here. And I do note that a quorum is present. Approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
The October 25th regular meeting.
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda changes. Ms. Bennett, any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
Public requests. If any member of the public wishes to provide a comment on any item, the time to do so is now. Please complete a public comment card identifying the item upon which you wish to be heard and provide it to Ms. Landers. The public comment cards are located in the back of the room. Each member of the public wishing to comment will be provided with 5 minutes to do so. The chair reserves the right to move the public comment opportunity on a specific agenda item to the point in the agenda when that item is to be considered and or to extend the allotted time per speaker. Consent agenda. Now we have several items on the consent agenda today. As you know, consent agenda items are those which the board does not need to discuss individually and which are voted on as a group. Any items may be removed from the consent agenda by a member, by the executive director, or airport legal counsel for discussion before the remaining items on the consent agenda have been moved and voted. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none. Does any member of the public have any comments on any item on the consent agenda? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent? So moved. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Federal, state, and municipal input. Ms. Bennett, anything here?
There is none tonight.
Right. Financial report. Presentation of the October 2023 financial report. Ms. Budd, Secretary Treasurer, please introduce the item.
Sure. This is the first report for the 2024 fiscal year. So there are not a whole lot of trends, no big anomalies that we have noticed in 30 days. As the year progresses, however, naturally we'll be keeping an eye on anything and we will let you know. I think with that, we're just going to turn it over to take a look at the numbers. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Lynn. So your package is the financial report through the month of October 31st in 2023. So as you can see, total operating revenue to date are approximately 547,000, and that's down about 0.4% below budget year to date. Total operating expenses are approximately 396,000, and that's down approximately 22.3% budget year to date, and that comes for depreciation of approximately 30,000. So on behalf of the Airport Manager and Executive Treasurer, we expect to present the October financial report to the
Motion to approve the, I'll make that. Okay, second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Tenant reports and requests. Both Boca aircraft owners, 11 amendment to lease agreement. Ms. Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're very pleased to present this item this evening to you. We have been in conversations and negotiations with Boca aircraft owners regarding some improvements that are planned for the facility. Just by way of background, the property is approximately 9 acres in total. We've heard some conversation earlier at the 3 o'clock workshop regarding some future requirements that would affect this property. So we had, in our conversations with Boca aircraft owners, wanted to be very methodical and complete the master planning process before we finalize our discussions regarding the future of this leasehold as is appropriate. You may recall as well that back in 2017, there were a number of improvements that reverted in title to the airport authority, namely hangars 1 through 6. And at that time, we negotiated with Boca aircraft owners a fair market rental structure for those improvements of 40% of the gross receipts payable to the airport authority on an annualized basis. The remaining portion of the property, which is the property surrounding hangars 8 and 9, has not reverted and would revert at the end of the existing lease term, which is 2031. So in our discussions with Boca Aircraft owners, we've identified a couple of key and important projects that Boca Aircraft owners is prepared to invest in on the property, particularly some improvements to the 8 buildings, the roofs of each building that would resolve some issues as well as extend the useful life of each of the buildings to benefit the airport authority and to benefit the users of those individual facilities. There are also some improvements and repairs that Boca Aircraft owners will make that have been identified in our inspections and discussions to the individual hangar buildings, hangar doors, etc. All in all, these improvements that Boca Aircraft owners will make total approximately between $430,000 to $450,000 as a minimum. What we have negotiated for the 11th Amendment is an extension of the term by 10 years, effective to September of 2031, which is when the existing lease term would expire. In consideration for the additional 10 years to 2041, Boca Aircraft owners has agreed to increase the ground rent for the portion of the property subject to ground rent, again, the area surrounding hangars 7 and 8, from 31 cents a square foot to 64 cents a square foot, effective 2024, December of 2024. So they will have a 1-year grace period to make those improvements and before the rent is escalated. It is a small portion, but nonetheless, it allows us the opportunity to bring that portion of the property to current market in advance of the 2031 termination and would result in a total net revenue for the airport authority within that 8-year period of $175,000 additional above the current rent, which in today's dollars is approximately $445,000. In 2031, excuse me, when the new period, the extension period begins, the 10 years, Boca Aircraft owners has agreed that all of the rent rather would be based on 40% of the gross receipts, because that would account for the reversion of the last 2 buildings. And we are estimating that at that time, based on current rental streams and some modest escalators, and it is just an estimate because again, the 40% of gross is based on, it's meant to reflect market pricing at the time. And we, as you know, verify that the rates that Boca Aircraft owners is charging at the retail rate are consistent with other airports, with hangars, similar hangars at similar airports across our market here in South Florida. So they are not outliers in what they're charging to their respective tenants. So our 40% of the gross receipts that would be kicking in, if you will, in 2031, would escalate the ground rent to approximately $550,000 at that time. And based on escalators that we're projecting, these are just projections, the total new revenue that the airport authority would collect on the leasehold for that 10-year extension period is approximately $6.8 million. So with that, we recommend approval of the resolution 113423, authorizing an 11th amendment to lease agreement with Boca Aircraft Owners Inc. And we do have representatives from Boca Aircraft Owners here, if you have any questions specific to that.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I have a question, just if I could, just 1 through 6 and 7, 8, just so I can picture what we're talking. I don't know which, I don't see a number on those.
Zoom back out.
Which is 7 and
Zoom
8?
back out.
Which we're talking.
This is 1 through 6 here.
Okay,
These are the ones that are currently under authority title, and we're receiving 40% of the lease. And then this is 7, and this is 8.
okay, those. Okay, thank you. That helps.
Thank you, Scott.
Ready?
Just when did you say the leaseholds, the roof and the doors, when will they be completed? What's the time frame on that?
Nicholas Fonseca is here. He can maybe answer the timetable. I do understand that they have a quote and a contract ready to go. So
Okay,
as soon as this,
so this is a now kind of thing,
Yes.
I guess was my question.
Yes.
It's not pushed down, 5 years or whatever, so.
correct,
Okay.
they
Yeah.
have a contractor ready to go with pricing that they have been holding for this, is my understanding, and Nicholas can verify. pending this, the board's consideration of the extension. That's why they are given that year grace period, because they will be getting to work immediately.
Okay, that's
If I
all
can-
that was my question.
Mitch?
I see. Oh, before I asked, I'm sure I didn't miss it. I understand the rent payment schedule and the change that's going on. Where is the obligation to do the improvements in the lease amendment, or is that somewhere else?
We did not include it in the lease amendment. The lease amendment speaks to the terms, the rent terms, as well as the termination date. It's not included in the lease amendment itself.
So is there some sort of written understanding?
It's the assertions made at this meeting and in our discussions. The consideration for the 10 years is the improvement that they intend to make.
I get it, I understand, I don't know. Okay. That, I just didn't say, yeah, it's not in here, I'm struggling with that a little.
It's not contractual consideration. It's not written that way. The contractual consideration is the escalation of the rental value. As provided, they're getting an extension, but you're accelerating the ground rent, and then you've established the rent based on the 40% when title reverts. I think it's the kind of the business incentive to engage in this process was their intention to upgrade the building.
What happens if they don't get the work done by the end of next year, or whatever they're supposed to do?
There is no provision within the lease amendment to extend the period of time based on the construction. So,
But the intent is, and they're giving them the 10 years predicated upon an understanding, and the consideration is the improvements. So if the improvements aren't done, they still have an agreement that they've got the extra 10 years. So my question is, are we what happens a year from now if it's not done for whatever reason?
they begin to pay us more money, even if they don't put it in.
How are they in the phase?
They escalate the ground rent from the 31 cents to the escalated number. That's the additional $175,000.
All right, so in other words, so what you're saying is they got to pay us more money, so that's their motivation to get the stuff done, so they can trust the tenants more.
That's
Right.
right.
That's
I didn't
carrot.
jump in.
No,
Carrot
absolutely.
stick.
It's rent schedule A.
Anybody else? We have a motion on the table to approve with the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Executive Director and staff reports, noise abatement, I believe Hannah's not here. Or, no,
Florence will be presenting the report.
it's on jury duty. Yeah, it's on your civic duty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The operation and noise abatement report for October 2023, starting off with, have the annual operation, the monthly operation for October 2023 is 8,146. That's a 3% increase from October 2022. Next, the fuel report. Jet A shows a decrease of 10% in the delivery, while avgas decreased 49% in October compared to last year. For noise abatement, we had 410 noise calls and 6 households.
Very good.
Operations, we are at 88 in October 2023. That's a 5% decrease from last year. And the customs queries were from 18 different countries. Bahamas being the most at 42 flights in October. And after our clearings, 32. One thing to note is that there were no clearings during the voluntary curfew hours. We also didn't have any vessel clearings in October. And this concludes the Operation Rose Gate report for October 2023. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer.
Anything for Florence? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Legislative update, Ms. Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is Chris on?
Chris is on.
Great, thank you. As you may recall, we had quite a bit of conversation at the October meeting regarding the appropriations process. There's quite a bit of activity that's happened in the last couple of weeks that we're very excited about. And Chris Lyon with Lewis Longman and Walker is joining us telephonically, and he will provide an update.
Welcome, Chris.
Good evening, everyone. I'm trying to start my video, but I'm getting a message that I can't because the host has stopped it. So I'm fine to continue without video. But if you want me to come on, just let me know.
Picture of you, so I think that will suffice.
All right. Get to look at my lovely mug. So a quick rewind. There's a lot's happened in the last couple of weeks. So I was last before you the evening of October 25th, where you all approved the engagement. The very next day, the 26th, I reached out to both Representative Gossett-Seidman and Senator Berman to ask them if they had an interest in filing an appropriation request for the airport. Both said they were interested and liked the sound of the project and asked me to start working it up. I also invited both of them to come to the airport and do a little quick tour so they could actually see the areas that we were talking about. It just so happened I was in the area on the following Tuesday, the 31st, and we were lucky enough to have Representative Gossett-Seidman come in person, and Senator Berman sent her aide Sophia to come to the airport. Mr. Nall was there with us, Clara, Scott, John Kerrigan, and we had a great visit with them. Representative Gossett-Seidman is really excited about the project. What she asked us to do was to identify all 5 areas that might benefit from this type of improvement. And to give her sort of an estimated cost, what it would take to do each of the 5 areas. We laid those out to her, the areas with a map, and your staff, Clara, Scott, John Kerrigan, they were awesome. I mean, they had stuff ready to go, and this was only just a couple of days after this was approved to move forward. We went and toured all 5 of the areas. And at the end of the tour, Representative Gossett-Seidman said, not only do I want to sponsor one project for these areas, I want to sponsor 2. So we said, well, here's the 5, you pick what you want to do. And so she identified, and I don't know if y'all have it in front of you, but 2 of the areas. One of the areas would have a state appropriation request of $2.88 million. And the second area that she selected, she wanted a large project and a smaller project. And in her mind, that would give her some flexibility to be able to have some negotiating power. The second project has a state request of approximately $1.05 million. So with that information from Representative Gossett-Seidman, Clara and Scott and John Kerrigan went to work immediately. There are some forms that have to be completed for the House and the Senate. We got those forms done, and we met our deadline of this 2 days ago, Monday. They were submitted to Representative Gossett-Seidman in order to beat the House deadline of Tuesday, and they were submitted to Senator Berman's office this week as well. The Senate doesn't actually have a deadline, but it's better to get them in earlier than later. So there's been a lot of work in the last, I guess, 2 weeks since we spoke. Your folks did an awesome job pulling things together in a tight time frame. We've got 2 legislative sponsors that are really excited about the projects. And I am optimistic. Still a long way to go. We have I believe, 3 more committee weeks, and then session begins, of course, in January. So still a long way to go, but I'm excited that we were able to pull things together so quickly and that we have 2 sponsors that are so excited about our projects. Clara, Scott, did I miss anything? Anything you all need to add? Okay. Any questions from the board for me?
Anything for Chris?
Just,
Yes, Randy.
you know, I understood, when Claire was updating me that it was kind of an either or with the 2 size projects. And I'm not saying that Claire even said that. That's kind of what I insinuated. Is it possible to get both done?
It's possible. And, you know, Representative Gossett Seidman had great success last year. I believe she told me that she was able to get 15 of her 17 projects funded. You know, I think I might have mentioned at some point that I think House leadership wants to help her where they can. So I think it's possible. She didn't say that, but she, you know, we initially approached her about just one project, and we were going to we told her, here's the one that we think gives us the best bang for our buck, the most immediate return on the investment. And she was the one that said, give me 2. I want a big one and a small one. It is possible that she could get them both. It is possible she gets neither. It is possible she gets a partial one. Anything could be the case, but it's exciting that she wanted 2.
Thank you.
Anything else for Chris? Thank you, Chris. Appreciate the update. We'll keep our fingers crossed for January in Tallahassee. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you all for having me, and I'm going to drop off. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Item 10, Authority Board Member Requests and Reports. I have a couple here just to start off. I'd just like to acknowledge the great event Saturday night at the Mayor's Ball, 8th Annual Mayor's Ball, sponsored by the Rotary Club of downtown. It was great seeing so many people there. Jim, Randy, myself, and Cheryl all attended. Several tenants came, like John from Atlantic over there. And then several staff, Scott, Claire, of course, and Anna. And we were just all so proud to be there as the airport was recognized with this very prestigious and high honor, the George Long Award, which is named after the first mayor of Boca Raton. So Claire, why don't you just take it from there and fill in a few more details? And I think we also have a video to show.
Yes, yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
And the trophy, where's the trophy?
Right behind you. It's glass, it's right through it. It's a Tiffany. Tiffany glass.
Very nice. We want to
Sponsored by
pass it on. I already got my grubby fingers all over.
But yes, I do, it was a really great energy. It was wonderful to have so many people who care about the airport there. In addition to the individuals you mentioned, we also had at our tables some guests. I mentioned John. We also had some of the city staff who normally would not attend and was at our table, as well as some of the nonprofit folks that we interact with. So it was a great feeling among the 2 tables and in the event as a whole. And we do have the video that was shown as part of our acceptance of the award, as well as a couple of pictures. I'd like to ask Robert to show those now. Whichever, yeah, we've got the pictures up. There's some, here's our table. We had an opportunity to interact with quite a few people. There's Marcy Woodward, and Marcy, she's not here today, but Marcy, one of our ambassadors.
And I think just about every elected official that we interact with was there, which was quite impressive. And there was a really nice ad in the program.
Correct. And we did issue a press release with some photos. I've already gotten some feedback. It's in the some of the aviation publications already. So that's kind of a nice thing to see that they're picking that up.
And yeah, before Claire took the stage, they played this really nice video. So
if you want to show the video, Robert.
Being recognized by the Rotary Club is such an incredible honor for the Boca Raton Airport Authority as we enter into our 75th year. as the public use airport is an incredible honor for all of us. The development of the Boca Raton Airport is parallel with the development history of the city of Boca Raton, from its grass strip that served historic Boca Raton Resort to the establishment of the Army Air Base in World War II that brought in thousands of people to the local community, and to the role that the airport plays today as a major economic engine with an almost $700 million annual economic impact, as well as over 5,000 people employed as a direct and indirect result of the airport being here. We've worked really hard over the last several years to strengthen and build our relationship with the local community. One particular area is our educational outreach. The Airport Authority actually has taken it a step further with the establishment of the Boca Raton Airport Scholarship that helps to support these young people who are interested in aviation as they embark on their educational career to college. On behalf of the Boca Raton Airport Authority and the Boca Raton Airport's tenants, I would like to thank the Rotary Club of Downtown Boca Raton for this incredible honor.
Hey, fantastic. The second item I wanted to bring up is that we become aware of a scheduled air charter operator that is proposing to provide service from the Boca Raton Airport starting in December.
We found out very recently that this company called JSX is working with one of our FBOs, with Atlantic Aviation, to establish service here. And normally we don't associate scheduled airline service with our type of airport, with a general aviation airport. But this type of activity with aircraft that are serving fewer than 30 passengers, or 30 seats or less, I should say, can operate within a general aviation environment. For us, this is a new endeavor, so we've reviewed our minimum standards and our rules and regulations, as well as the lease requirements with Atlantic Aviation, and have notified both Atlantic Aviation and JSX that there is a process that they'll have to go through. We have some questions regarding the operating procedures and parameters of this type of activity here, since again, this is not something that is typical for Boca Raton. But we are working with Atlantic Aviation to get those questions answered. There's a requirement that we have to provide written approval for the activity before it can take place. My understanding is that they are looking at the middle to latter part of December. So our expectation is that we will work with both entities to get those questions answered and bring back a recommendation, most likely for an update to the minimum standards and a full report on the proposed activity for the December 13 meeting.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Bud.
Ms. Bennett, can you clarify how this group came to be joining us here on the airport? Again, making it clear as to whether the airport authority or anyone associated with Boca Raton Airport invited them in, knew about this. Is it part of a grander plan to expand such activity?
On behalf of the airport authority, no, but this is a use that our understanding is part of the analysis that we are conducting, is that it is allowed to happen at a general aviation airport. There are airports that maybe take a different, different rules or different procedures for their minimum standards. We do not have this activity contemplated in our existing minimum standards. So, because again, this wasn't something that was typical here of a scheduled air service where there are per seat tickets sold to the general public. Our activity is generally on-demand charter or Part 91, which is corporate or sport and recreational or flight training. So scheduled air charter service is not something we've experienced before at this level. So we are, again, doing our due diligence to make sure that we're following our rules and regulations and minimum standards in our lease agreement with Atlantic Aviation, as well as ensuring compliance with our grant assurances and federal requirements. Our understanding right now, again, is that we cannot preclude it from happening because it is allowed under certain rules, particularly the rule that they have 30 seats or less on the airplane. The type of airplane that we understand is being proposed for this activity is similar to what the types of airplanes that already operate here. So in and of itself, the airplane is not going to be or look different than what we already have here. It's not any bigger than what we already have. What is different is the way that passengers are traveling through the parking, traveling through the terminal, traveling to the airplane. And that's the kind of information that we're asking JSX and Atlantic Aviation to provide. So we have a certain degree of understanding and clarity on how all that will be handled.
And just to clarify that I understood you correctly and that anyone who is listening understands correctly, this is not a change that we anticipated. It is not a change that we planned.
Correct.
It is simply a change that has been presented to us and we must accept by federal regulation.
That is correct.
Mitch?
Yeah, so, they're allowed to do it, but what's the, 30,000 foot view, if you will. What are the rules that an airport can impose on something like that and the restrictions? Because obviously they can't have carte blanche and start, doing 10 flights a day or whatever. There's got to be some balancing here if they're allowed to do it. And do those rules exist, or is it left up to the airport authority to kind of decide what those are?
It's an allowed, again, we're doing our due diligence with our legal team, as well as reviewing requesting the information rather for a review. It's allowed aeronautical activity at a general aviation airport, so we can't prohibit it and we cannot restrict the number of flights. And the restriction is the size of the airplane and based on the operating capacity of the airport and the number of seats on the airplane. So if the number of seats changes to 31, they cannot operate here. But at 30,
that plane.
they cannot operate. That activity cannot happen here. At 30 seats or less, my understanding again is that they can, because the rules do not require, at least the understanding right now is that the rules do not require them to operate out of a certificated airport. But we are asking them for their interpretation of that rule, because we are also doing our review to ensure that is in fact the case. And that we come back to you in December with the facts.
And this is already in the public domain, right? They put out a press release and they.
Correct, that's how we found out about it, yes.
They're selling seats already.
They're selling tickets.
Yeah.
But that is how we
In
found out.
Boca or other airports?
No, here.
Yeah, Boca, to New Jersey, right?
My understanding is from here to Morristown and to White Plains.
If I could just add on, Mr. Fogel, in terms of what you have asked, we are in the process of evaluating, because this is a relatively new thing that we're not the only airport that's kind of contending with, what the FAA rules require, what they restrain in terms of our local self-governance. And so our anticipation is that when we come back to you, we will be able to give you a little bit clearer line of sight into categorically what you may condition, restrain in terms of different topics, because, obviously your thought goes to security and safety and all of those things. And so there is room for self-governance, but precisely, where you have power to act and where the federal regulations, may limit your power to act is something that, we're continuing to work with and intend to provide you with some substantive information at the next board meeting.
I think Randy first.
Yeah, I mean, we may not have these details yet. Do we know, will the aircraft be branded? I mean, will it say JSX Airlines?
We've asked all of that.
Okay. And I assume there'll be situations where they will be overnighting here?
Yeah, we've asked for schedules, we've asked for all of that operational information, the type of aircraft, the configuration, the passenger capacity, all of those questions that are relevant, whether or not there will be passenger screening and how that will happen and where the vehicles will be parked, because again, it's up to 30 seats. So at some airports that may not be possible, or it may be perfectly okay. I don't know what they intend to do here, but Atlantic we forwarded that request to JSX and Atlantic to give us those details of how they foresee the aircraft operating, the people getting to and from the airplane, and answering those questions that we have to ensure the safety and the security of the operation.
Mel?
Before I ask my question, By the way, NetJets and some of the other
Yeah.
corporate operators, they overnight here,
Yeah,
they stay here. Would it be appropriate to ask the gentleman from Atlantic Aviation if he has any
Sure.
updates or information for us? Thank you.
You have a question about?
Well, do you have any updates based on what Clara told us? I guess you guys are, would the word be, they'll be working out of your terminal? You have fixed FBO?
That's correct. We've got Clara's email this afternoon, so I forwarded that over to my team. We haven't had a chance to review all of it in its entirety. I expect to have some internal discussions on that and then give Clara and her team all the information she's requesting. And then it'll be back to you guys as we talk about.
It sounds like it's as new to you as it is to us, or close.
No, it is, and I also don't want to get past my skis in all those operations.
I'm just curious, that's all.
Are they gonna have a counter in your lobby? No.
What?
Don't they operate in some of your other FBOs? They do. Okay, how many do you know? Maybe 5 or so. Yes.
All right, yeah. Well, can you give us any details without getting over your skis about how they operated those other FBOs that you guys?
Some of them have dedicated space allocated, like I know, like in Scottsdale, Arizona, they do quite a bit of volume with them in flight activity. Where they will have a dedicated executive terminal built in that's away from the general FBO. It's something that could be under consideration. It seems like Boca is a bit of a test market right now for them. They're not so sure that this would be a every year kind of thing. It's very testing for them.
Yeah, the question probably all of us have. Do you have any idea of how many operations a day or weeks they might do? Because I know the demand is here, there's no doubt about it.
You can go on their calendar, they're all scheduled.
Oh, it is.
Potentially 2 a day, Monday through Friday. Not every day, no.
You know,
JSX.com.
Yeah.
Juliet Sierra X-ray.
Anything else for Joe, Cheryl?
Go ahead, you had it.
Yeah, can we make sure that we invite them and that they are present in our next meeting?
They have been,
Yeah,
And as well as.
yes.
yeah, I would say based upon just the reaction here, this should be, yeah.
Yeah,
Big
we
part of
need
the
to
next
really get up to speed on
meeting,
this.
something different than.
Yeah.
kind of a-
Cheryl,
Just a personal observation, so I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, but I know how hard we work to keep open, honest communication, transparent communication with all our stakeholders, and you have been excellent in doing that, but it is just a little disappointing to find out this from a news release. Maybe other boards, it's like, hey, you should expect it. I guess you could say that, hey, it's allowed, you should not be surprised at anything that is permitted. But it's just a little bit disappointing to find out that way.
here,
That's it. You don't need to respond. Not putting you on the spot.
I actually will, for the sake of, running the moral compass, I take some responsibility for that, as far as, visiting, as far as getting events to the press happen, without our knowledge, and I do apologize that was your perception, and it's not intended that way.
Well, it's greatly appreciated that we know that it was without your knowledge. Thank you.
anything else for John? Thank you very much, John, appreciate that.
Yeah.
Update, and we'll look forward to more coming soon. Lastly, just wanted to call attention to the flyer, Toys for Tots, running through December 12th, Miss Landers, as always, accepting new unwrapped toys. All right, sorry to hog that portion. Any other
Forget
items?
it, no time for-
Yeah, sure.
Yes, just one quick thing, if I may. It is in relation to the workshop immediately prior to this board meeting. As was mentioned at the opening, we have had several workshops prior and some technical committee activities, and I'm to be specific, in April of 21, May of 21, October of 22, January of 22, and of course today, the 23rd. So none of the information is new here. We did have two individuals well respected within our stakeholder community, Mr. Greenberg, and who else did we have? Mr. Knight raised some issues, and I think it is important to hear from our general manager and CEO about those issues. I'm not asking you, Clara, to tell us the answers to the issues that were raised, but it is important to know that they have been raised before, they have been answered before. So when we have a workshop like this and you have two individuals come up and none of us here have responses for that, including the CEO, it is because she has done that before. So please share with us the interaction in the past since we started this endeavor and where we might find the specific answers to the issues that were raised. Is it on the website? Did you talk with them individually? Did you go through the Pilots Association? Just need to get a better sense to of how we have responded over time to these same issues.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Buck. Yes, all of the above. So, as unfortunately, as was mentioned, this process has been a little protracted because there was about a 12-month period approximately from when we started. There was an interruption that related to our discussions with FAA regarding the modification of standards. One of the issues that was brought up in the comment was the taxiway and the runaway relocation that had been evaluated. So hark back to 2021, 22 timeframe when that was being reviewed. I think it was actually 2021. So that question of the taxiway and the runway and the operational restriction was addressed very, very early on. In fact, we spent a year working with FAA to address that issue in the modification of standards. And we had numerous, Travis attends the pilot meetings monthly. We host meetings with them over at Signature quarterly, right? And or once a year at least at Signature. All the information has been on our website from the very, very beginning with all the updates, including those very early presentations that dealt with the modification of standards. We have had one-on-one conversations, we've had emails, and we've had subsequent to the January board workshop where the development alternatives were discussed. We had a pilot workshop with the Boca Pilots Association. I think about 60 plus people here in this building attended. We actually had Brad Weston attend. We had that was not one of the planned meetings, but we added that to the scope.
That was our speaker this evening.
Correct.
Presented directly to them.
Who's been managing that program. I think that meeting was about 2.5 to almost 3 hours in length, where pretty much every question that would have been had at that time, including the 2 questions that were asked here this afternoon, were addressed during that workshop. All of that material is on our website. We reiterated all of that information again at the beginning of the workshop. Actually, about the first 30 minutes, we went back through all of that material and added the new material, which included the CIP and the airport layout plan this evening. I'm happy to follow up with both of them again to make sure that there are any lingering questions. But yes, I can honestly state that those 2 questions have been heard. They've been included in the review, and they, in my opinion, have been answered.
Well,
Ever since we've had Travis, I said we've had, Travis, no, I go to the meetings, Travis has started coming to the meetings as a licensed pilot. You notice the temperatures are really down. And quite frankly, I was very pleased, I think you were too, that we only had 2 questions today. And that big meeting that we had a few months ago with like 60 people here, boy, did we cover a lot of ground.
Good.
Really.
Well, thanks for taking the blow for us.
yeah.
It's not taking the blow.
No, but.
They're a stakeholder and they have an interest.
No,
And look, this airport has gone in the last 8-9 years from single engine, twin engine propeller airplanes
yeah,
to $70 million jets, 24/7.
understood.
And yet it's an important market that the master plan acknowledges, which is why the alternatives that are being proposed do reflect additional T hangars, including in a rather interesting non-aeronautical development, i.e. the hotel. And we've, as you approved, a 10-year lease extension for Boca aircraft owners that also ensures the stability of the service provided to that market.
And like I said to Pete earlier, I hope his crystal ball in that 25 acres is real.
That's right.
Very
That'd be
good.
great.
Any other board member comments? Any other board member? Ms. Landers, any public comments? Any other business to come before the board? The next meeting is scheduled for December 13th, 2023 at 5. Was there talk about moving it a little bit earlier? Yeah, to like 3 o'clock because of
Sure.
Failing or something.
Yeah,
Yes, the board meeting will remain at the new time, which was changed a year ago to the 13th at 5 p.m. So that's the published meeting time. However, we are inviting board members and other VIPs here in the room to join us at 3 o'clock, where we would like to have an opportunity to meet the artist who is doing the mural. You may have heard us talk about during our 75th anniversary discussion that we have an artist is doing a mural depiction of the airport along the departure end of runway 5. It's going really great. It's a beautiful concept. And so our thought was that we would start at 3 o'clock while there's still daylight, take you and the rest of our VIP guests to view it and come back, and you also have the opportunity to meet the artist. And then the regular meeting would happen at 5 o'clock.
yes, Mel.
One last thing, excuse me. There's a newspaper called the Coastal Star. They give it out in all the condos. on
Yeah,
the-
It's widely read. It's very good.
Yeah, it is. And this month they had a half a page on our airport observation area. My neighbors have been knocking on the door saying they can't wait.
Well, I think that was written by Marcy, right?
No,
Yeah.
Rich Powell.
Rich Pollock.
Oh, Rich Paul, okay.
And
Amazing.
Yeah.
we are also inviting Rich to the unveiling and other members of the media with whom we work to come to the viewing of the mural wall on the 13th.
Okay,
So
great.
hopefully we'll get some-
And then we'll get a notice. An
Yes,
email
Ms.
on that
Landers
first.
will send out, now that we are confirmed, we wanted to get a consensus that you were all available and amenable to coming at 3. And then have the regular meeting at 5, so we'll send that notice and the calendar invite.
As long as Christine feeds us.
There may be something.
That's leftovers from today.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
Really tasty, yeah.
There you go.
Very good. Anything else? Looking
Gallon
for a
for
motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned.
Good day. Good day.
Bless you.